Pull up my agenda here. So, yep, that looked through the phone. Is that Leo?
Leo, is that you?
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Sounds like Leo.
Hey, how's it going,
All right.
guys?
Hey. All right. So good timing. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Summer meeting. So it is officially a regular meeting because it was scheduled 7 days in advance, but we in the summer dispose of most of the Pledge of Allegiance and things, and the goal is to finish quickly and the acknowledgements and whatnot. I do have one agenda adjustment, so I would make a motion to amend the agenda to add item 4A on discussion, MPA guidance for summer conditioning. Is there a second to add that to the agenda?
I second.
Any other agenda adjustments or questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote on that. Your vote, Aaron?
Aye.
Sideways, Jake?
Aye.
Okay. Leo?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. So is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead. So first item up is the item we just added, Maine Principal Association guidance for summer conditioning. Meredith, did you want to open that, or Mike?
Yeah, sure, I'll open it. I sent you all the MPA guidance for the summer conditioning that's been developed over, gosh, probably the last 6 to 8 weeks. And communicated also our plan to begin with phase 1 on July 6th and ask Mike to join, and Mike asked JP Stowe, our athletic trainer, to join, because they've been working hand in hand to develop the plan for how this will work to follow all the guidelines for safety and in a way that we felt comfortable with here in Orono in our context. And Mike sent out the information to the school community. I believe, was it yesterday, Mike, that you sent that out?
It went out to the district parents, but I sent it out Monday night to all of the grades 9 through 12. So I believe I put a copy of that in our shared folder in case you didn't receive that. So I just wanted to kind of open it up for some discussion, because as I indicated, we're in the minority in this area in going ahead and getting started with this, and wanted to just be sure that board was supportive and comfortable with us moving forward in this way. So, before if there are questions that Mike or JP could answer, if anyone has questions or comments about that.
I guess I lay off a plan that I support, and I am comfortable with plans that Mike and P have developed, and I appreciate the efforts that have gone into that and helping the kids out to do some. It's just conditioning at this point, but I think it's important that we ease into this, as there's been obviously a time off there. So I the effort and I'm fully supportive.
I'm fully supportive as well. I think that it's important to get the kids out and doing something, physical activity, but also get them back with their friends. I think there's an important social element to it as well. As I think everybody knows, I'm a pretty strong proponent of youth sports, and I think it's important to get it moving again. I think the plan that Mike and JP have put together follows the MPA guidelines. It follows, it's even stricter than the governor's youth sports guidelines, which were revised on the 24th of June. I think they're taking all the necessary steps on this, and I'm 100% supportive.
I also support it. I think the current situation in Maine is pretty good. The guidelines are good. I did have a suggestion about preferring 10 feet over 6 feet distance, given that people are actively exercising. That's a pretty minimal modification. I also wanted to be clear that, you know, this is today. This is a pretty rapidly changing situation. So who knows about phase 2 or the fall, but I think the risk that this is going to cause a problem or, you know, lead to not having school in the fall or anything like that is a pretty far stretch of the imagination. So I definitely support it for now. And in fact, I actually think it's an opportunity for us to start practicing and thinking things through and setting a tone for the fall. It's not, you know, what do you think, Mike? It's probably a quarter of the high school kids who would be involved in one of these activities, or a little bit.
Oh
smaller.
yeah, and first and foremost, thank you everybody for allowing JP and I to have an opportunity to join you. It's nice to hear the support. We feel like obviously there's risk to everything, but we certainly felt that the benefits were many here. I posted this at 8:02 on Monday night. I got up at 5:58 on Tuesday morning, and there were almost 50 kids that had signed up between 8 o'clock that night and the time that I woke up that morning. So that clearly reinforced to me that these kids are looking for some structure to get back to to try to get back to somewhat of their social environment, to be with their coaches, to do something productive and physical. So, JP and I think there are a lot of benefits. I do want to let JP, if you can turn your microphone on, I do want to let JP just for anyone who has any questions regarding the pre-screening. I think this is going to be something that we're going to be very unique in the state to doing. But JP, can you just go ahead and just and explain the pre-screening that will have to take place prior to them coming to the workouts?
Yeah, can you guys all hear me okay? I figured I'd turn my video on too. But yeah, so one thing that we're doing at Northern Light is that anybody who comes into the hospital, whether they're a visitor or a employee or whatever it might be, we have a pre-screening tool that the patients and the visitors can use upon coming in, so that they don't have to, stand there and be asked 20 questions before they enter the hospital. They literally log in to a website, answer a couple questions. It takes about 15 seconds. They show a green screen, get their temperature taken, and they get let in. So one thing that we did is I had asked the hospital about 3 or 4 weeks ago if they could develop the same type of website and just make it sports related, so that it didn't cross over into what they were doing. And there's nothing tracked, there's nothing stored. It's literally just for screening purposes. So one thing what we're going to do is, I've sent the link to the coaches, I've sent the link to Mike. They're going to get it out to their athletes, because the MPA is pushing for pre-screening prior to showing up. They don't want kids showing up if they have any symptoms. They don't want a kid showing up and saying, "Oh yeah, I've been coughing and I have runny nose and all this stuff." So now we're in a different situation. So if they can go through that on, at home or on their way to the field, all they have to do when they show up is, the coaches have to ask, "Have you done the pre-screening?" They can answer yes or no, or they can show the green screen, which makes it easy. So if they show the green screen, coach marks them present, and we go on with the workout. So I think it just helps to make it a little easier for the coaches, and so that it's easier for them to confirm that they did do the pre-screening. And there's some evidence on that screen, and there's nothing on. It's literally just a green screen with a check mark that says that they've done that. And we can get the link to you guys as well if you want to see it. I'm not sure if that was in the document or not, but
yeah, it was, and I sent it to all of the kids as well. So
yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to make everybody clear about is that this summer's a little bit different than summers past. Normally we don't require kids to register for summer summer programming. We have a summer meeting with the coaches at the end of school where kids show up and they're interested in doing the summer sport. But for this summer, because they're only allowed to be in one pod, we have to do a registration format. So that's why that registration form is there. We can't have kids show up on a Tuesday night and just say, here, I'm here to join a pod. Once these pods are established, that's the way it has to be, and we can't alter those. If we get to phase 2, and I can tell you yesterday morning or Monday morning in our coaches meeting, we spent maybe 15 seconds talking about July 20th and beyond. We didn't spend any time discussing that. We focused on this first phase, and we'll take the second phase as it comes, if it can, and we'll make accommodations to it if we need to. But these kids now have until Sunday to sign up and get into these pods, and then they need to bring that registration form with them that first night or the first session, whether it's Monday or Tuesday, in order to get in these pods. So I just want you folks to know that in case you were to get an upset parent that I drove in, and I think we've done everything that we can in our power to get the message out to these kids, either through their phone or through email or through the athletic Facebook page, to give them ample time to join a pod and do it in the process that we've laid out.
So Mike, you said 50 had signed up by Monday. What are you up to now?
We've got over 70 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So yesterday we had to add a pod for field hockey. So they've got in the mid to upper 20s now. So which is great to see. And the coaches this isn't about one sport over another right now. The coaches don't care where the kids go. They just want to see them in a pod. So it's really good. That's why we went to the pod structure, to sign up on their own, because I didn't want coaches calling kids, because that's just going to put on, it's not a purposeful pressure. But when I'm 14 years old and I get a call from one of my coaches, I'm going to feel obligated to sign up for that if I'm a multi-sport athlete. So we didn't want the coaches to have that direct contact and put the pressure on the kids. That's why we did it this format, and that way they could sign up on their own.
Hey, have you had any negative or expressions of concern from parents? I'm sure it's mostly positive, but
yeah,
nothing at all?
No, just I answered one email this morning just in regards to just putting an emphasis on JP and mine and Amy's role, and making sure that all the, everything looks great on paper, but once you put it to the, but we're going to be there every night. And we made the coaches aware that we're not there to look over your shoulder, and not that we don't trust you, but we have to be all in on this, and we have to be all working, pulling together and on the same page. And we're there for support. And if a student starts to show some symptoms that are unrelated to the physical activity, then that's where JP and Amy come in, and that can, they can remove that athlete and be treating and looking with that athlete, and the coaches can continue to do what they need to do. So, and thank you, Meredith, for arranging the facility to be freed up a little bit so that we can use a couple of fields. I don't know if we could have done this if we didn't have the space that we needed. So that has been really helpful as well.
Great.
Mike, were you able to contact the incoming freshmen, particularly from sending communities, so they know about this as well?
Yeah, good question, Mark. Richard Glencross has been a huge help to us, and so has Reg. We have all the information that we have sent out. We have made sure that we've gotten it to Reg and Richard, because they'll have those contacts of those incoming freshmen that have enrolled at Orono. So I guess the answer to that question, Mark, is that if for some reason a student has not enrolled at Orono yet, they may not be getting this information. But I would assume that might be a few. But any student that's enrolled and has an email address, and their parents have an email address, they have got access to this information.
Thanks.
I want to clarify a little bit though on that, because the ninth graders, the incoming ninth graders from sending towns, our school messenger through Power School doesn't have those updated addresses yet. I think today, July 1st, is that rollover date. So I'm going to make sure that they do get the email.
Mm-hmm.
So it was acting on our previous year's contact list up until they rolled the year over. So anyway, but Richard did email the 8th graders. So that covers our incoming 9th graders from OMS. But we're on it to make sure they get it.
Great, thank you.
I can verify that my freshman daughter did receive the information, so it worked from that avenue.
Just returning to the theme, I do think this is a chance to start setting a tone. And I think masks are not a big part of this story, which is appropriate for outdoors and exercising, but social distancing, just walking around town, the average 10 to 25-year-old does not have a whole lot of respect for social distancing. So I do think it's important for coaches to, both enforce, but also teach and explain around social distancing. And that, and then one of my hopes is that helps set us up for when we go into the fall and have to do the same thing. But would appreciate attention to that.
Yep. And that'll be at the tone that JP and Amy will set, Monday night when we get there. Obviously, we have an hour. We're not going to have these kids working out for an hour. They're not ready to do that yet. We're going to ease our way into this. But the three of us will address all of the pods and send that same message to them of just the reinforcement of the guidelines and how we've all got to work together and make sure that we follow these to a T.
Great. Any other board members want to weigh in? All right. It seems like we have a pretty good consensus on this. Nope. All right. We're good to go for now. And as with everything with COVID, we'll see where we're at as we go forward.
Thank
Mike,
you, guys.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with you later about
Okay.
how we'll loop back to the board. But thank you to Mike and JP for coming today and also for all your work to get this set up.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you.
input. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have executive session for contract negotiations. Do you think we need the executive session, Meredith? Are there things
I
you
just
want?
put it on there in the event if the board wanted to. We had already had an executive session last meeting, so I guess we could offer it out to the board if anyone wants to.
I'm assuming, given this is still on the agenda, that the union did go ahead and pass it, so it's in our court.
It is, yes. That Shauna sent me that yesterday, that it was approved by the OEA ESP membership and, ready for us to similarly consider.
I don't personally need anything more than we had last executive. Does any board member want to go into executive session?
No.
Okay, no. Okay. All right. So I think we can save time on that and move ahead to action item 5A, contract approval. I would make a motion for the board to approve the one-year contract from ESP as presented. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Aaron and Jake and Meredith for their work on this. It's a huge amount of time outside of the additional stuff that we do as a board, and especially Jake. This is his third go around on this, so it's much appreciated.
Agreed. I would also thank the ESP negotiators. I think once COVID hit, they showed a lot of flexibility in adjusting and switching to a one-year plan, which I think makes a lot of sense. So any other?
I would just underscore all of that. It was, we felt like we accomplished a lot, but then also when we got to a point where seeing what the right path forward looked like once we were in remote learning and quarantine and Zoom negotiating, I think I appreciate the OEA team and the way also Jake and Aaron, we all worked together to figure out the right path forward. So I think we all feel really good about where this has ended up.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and take a vote, which I know it represents a lot of hours of work, but we'll take the vote. So we had a second, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron, so how do you vote?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay, we have now a couple of construction contracts. You want to introduce those, Meredith?
Sure. I put in the board meeting folder 2 contracts. The first one that we're taking is one that's called, I've named the file the Hazmat Task and Cost Amendment. So this is from the company that we've been using throughout the whole process. It's Environmental Safety and Hygiene Associates, and they have been working with us through different phases of our design documentation and concept drawings, the whole really journey we've taken so far. And so this, if you look in the proposal, you can see task 1, task 2, they've completed that with us. We're now in task 3, which is really having a contract with them where they provide oversight to the actual work that's going to be done around asbestos abatement. So, and in this step, they are not working with under the architect, they're working for us. So they're a third party independent kind of oversight for the process. It's required actually in some of the regulations around health and safety for hazardous materials. And this company, as I said, because they've been working with us all along, really is the best choice because they know our buildings and the asbestos kind of prevalence better than anyone at this point. So the range for services falls in line with our budget, how that was budgeted in the bond. So I do fully recommend this contract for your to authorize me to sign this contract.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I had a question. You did send out a copy of the ESHA. I don't know that I've received a copy of the coal contract. Has anybody else gotten that?
It's in the folder.
I've been looking. I can't find an email for a folder. Am I missing something? Has any other board member seen the folder?
I think I got the same contract twice.
I shared the folder yesterday, I think.
I got a revised agenda
Sorry,
email.
no, I'm looking and you're not in the folder. That's really strange. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. You may have assumed I already saw these contracts because.
Well, no, I thought that I shared this folder. I'm just sending it again. It's called July 1 board materials.
Okay.
Did it just come through?
Yes, I see it now in Google Drive.
My apologies.
Whoop, except I don't see any folders in there or any documents inside the folder.
So
I have them all in the. I just opened it, so I see them all in there.
maybe it'll take a second to load them, Brian.
It might.
I can also see them all.
I see the hazmat now.
Yeah, I see it as
Yep,
well.
okay. Yep, just took a second. I see them now too. Okay. All right. Everybody good to go ahead? So I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the contract with ESHA for hazmat testing and supervision. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion or questions? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. And then we have a very similar contract. You want to just explain this one, Meredith?
Yes, so the second contract is for construction testing, and the vendor or the company we're recommending is SW Cole Engineering. And so as you can see in the proposal, which I apologize, you've just received, they do material testing throughout construction. Again, they work for us, not the architect. or the contractor to test for, in a number of areas. If you scroll down to page 4, it kind of outlines the aspects of the testing throughout construction, soil and foundation testing, concrete, masonry, structural steel, fire resistant materials, fire stops, wood construction, and they provide reports back to both us and to the architect and the contractor. And this occurs, as I said, throughout construction with different phases. And if you look at there is a slight update to this that is not reflected here. It came through just a few minutes before our meeting. Robin had asked for a couple of clarifications on some points that they felt needed to be laid out a little more specifically. So I'll just tell you there are just a couple of extra bullets under a couple of these items, like under structural steel, that Robin suggested that they add a couple of additional elements to their testing. So it's, slightly more in depth than what you see under the structural steel. For example, there are 2 extra bullets outlining 2 extra aspects of what they need to test there. And then the same under, I think it was the concrete construction. So the contract price didn't change with those additional items. So as you can see at the very bottom, they lay out a in the proposal itself, you see the schedule of rates. And then at the very bottom, you can see they lay out their costing in this proposal, which totals $44,710 is the proposal for this work. It is an estimate because of kind of the uncertainty of construction and what may arise during construction. So they've given us an estimate based on their costing. I can tell you it's well below what is in our bond estimate for the service. So even if there is some adjustment, we're really have a lot of room to adjust if needed. And this is a contractor that has an office in this area. They have a larger, network of offices, but they also in their proposal indicate they're going to use Carpenter and Associates, which is in Old Town, for a few of the testing services as a subcontractor under them. And Carpenter Associates has worked a lot with us as well in the past.
Okay, so I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the contract with SW Cole Construction for construction testing. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion or questions? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. So that concludes the agenda. Close to on schedule here. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment. Our next meeting is, next regularly scheduled meeting would be August 4th, 2020 at 6 p.m. I guess to be determined whether that's in person at a location or on Zoom.
And also probably to be determined. I anticipate we'll need a meeting before then, but we'll, again, schedule that as needed.
Yep. Any requests for information or follow-up?
Just a question. Do we, since we can no longer do authorize Meredith to hire, what do we have open at the moment? I assume there's some ed tech positions open because there always are, but is there anything else?
Yeah, we have speech language pathologist open, both the middle school position and then also a long-term sub position in that same role at ASA. Those are the only two openings that would require board approval that we have openings for right now. The ed techs we can hire and then notify. And we do have, I think, one ed tech opening, as Lisa emailed me about this week, right, Lisa? One.
Yep.
In better shape than normal for ed techs. Probably a sign of the times, unfortunately.
And then one other kind of related question. I assume, I can never remember when we do these things, but I assume that we have approved our fall coaches at the high school level who are going to be working with these kids over the summer. But have we done, there's a winter sport going as well, and I don't know that we've approved winter coaches, have we?
We haven't, and no, we haven't done that. And honestly, I'm waiting just a little bit longer to do that. So if there's a new coach, we would want to get them through to approval. But for a returning coach, I'm not as concerned about having that approval done at this point. Mike and I talked, and we just want to wait a bit further to see what fall is going to look like before we extend to that point.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't know if Mike is still here, but where does it stand for sort of switching the fall and spring sports, at least sort of that baseball, soccer switch? We don't know.
Not on the call, but Reg can weigh in on this too. From what I've learned, that was a proposal floated from the field, but that was not an MPA kind of, it didn't start with MPA, and MPA has indicated they're not in favor of doing that at this point. And Reg is involved with a committee there. He might have something.
Yeah, they haven't taken any action on it, so I think at this point it'd probably be too late to make it happen.
I think there were some concerns about it that kind of caused that to not go forward any further than it did.
Any other requests for information or follow-up? Okay, I would motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. Aaron?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you, everybody. Short and sweet.
Hi, Kristen. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and welcome aboard to the 3 people who start today.
Yeah, nice to see all of you.
Thank you.
Beginning with no power this morning.
Right. Yes.